المصري بقول أنا المصري حامي للوطن مصر الوطن متجمعين على حبها نعيش لها ونموت لها وكلنا حماة الوطن.
Welcome back. We're joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, the former assistant to the foreign minister. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for joining us again on Nile TV. And can you tell us a bit about the escalation that's happening right now? There's escalation, obviously, the military intervention in the Ukraine, and words are being exchanged between the NATO alliance and Russia, where, for instance, the Russian president earlier said yesterday that any sort of intervention with what Russia is doing will have major consequences. And then the NATO, hits back today, saying that they will, create major sanctions against Russia for their military invasion. Do you see any possibility of de-escalation?
I think this is a sort of a failure of all the parties to continue the dialogue in order to make each side satisfied for its security. The West failed to make Russia satisfied that they are not going to expand more and more to the east.
Yes.
Of course, after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall, the whole Eastern Bloc became alliance or members in the West organization, whether the NATO or the European Union.
Okay.
And they started to go ahead more and more to the east. There must be a red line to stop at that. At the beginning, they used the carrot, not the stick.
Yes.
By adopting the Russian Union to be the member number 8 in the G7.
Yes.
And they continued like that. When Russia started to be worried about what's happening in Ukraine, they expelled Russia from the G7. And they stopped continuing the sort of economic cooperation. Now, instead of give more courage to Russia to be satisfied, they are using what I call the snowball. Now we cannot stop the snowball going towards a bad confrontation between the two sides, whether the United States, the NATO, and the European Union against Russia.
Yes.
But I hope that some wise men would discover immediately or realize that a world war is impossible with all armaments each side is using or having. So let us hope in the coming few hours that the voice of reason will start to appear.
Yes.
And to give good signs to Russia, not to threat Russia about economic boycotting, because boycotting was proved failure in all the experiences in our history. U.S. started to boycott China 50 years ago. Now they are their best partner. They use this towards Cuba. Now Cuba became a normal relations with the U.S. So we need a sort of reasonable opinion and reasonable intermediation until we reach a satisfactory position. But I am really worried. On the other side, I am confident that no world war will start under any
Mr. Ambassador, do you think that this is the time for a UN intervention to start to mediate the circumstances right now?
Sorry?
Do you think that it is a time for the UN to intervene and start to mediate things between the NATO alliance and Russia?
No, I think that the United States since decades started to neglect the role of the United Nations. And even their alliance in European Union always complain that United States is trying to act outside the United Nations
Yes.
and outside the NATO. It is a superpower and the only power, and they want to act like that. But this cannot continue because it annoys even their alliance in European
Yes.
Union. The Russians, of course, and now China do not agree with this.
Okay, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, the former assistant to the foreign minister, thank you so much for shedding light. There's a lot in store for you over the day with special coverages, but we're going to end it here, and in a few minutes' time, we're going to start taking the top stories.
ياللي حضنك هو نفسه حضن أمي، ياللي ليكي فيا أكتر من اللي ليا، ياللي مهما بعدت عنك جوا دمي